All right, so we're going to launch our Mango Fedora installer here. And one of the things that you're going to see right away is that it's going to say Fedora server. And this is version 0.1 of the installer that I'm working with. And my goal is to probably get this in a much better state eventually. It's not there yet, but it will be. And so I have yet to try this installer in a bare metal. I've only used the installer in a VM. So let's go ahead and get there, and I'll tell you a little bit about the plans that I have as we sort of begin to install all of this installer. And as I mentioned to you guys, it was going to say Fedora server. So if you look over here to the bottom left, it says Fedora server. I'm gonna go ahead and change my time zone because I'm not in New York. We're gonna go ahead and change New York here, and we're gonna go ahead and enter Denver. And then we're gonna just make some minor changes here. So for the most part, we are gonna set a user creation here, and we'll give this user the username of JTech. All right, we're gonna enter a password. Our passwords match. It's too short, so we gotta hit done twice, and that's okay. And now we have everything now set. Installation source, we're gonna leave that the way it is. Software selection, we'll keep this the way it is. And all of this, we're just gonna keep the default settings. And I'm gonna go ahead and begin to install. Now, as a reminder, this is a Fedora Mango edition that I'm building. It is not gonna be anything big. This is more of anything else. It's definitely a hobby distro. I'm not planning to maintain it long term. This is more of short term. As long as I'm using it, I will be kind of maintaining it. But for the most part, I am building it, and I'm kind of just doing it for now. I'll probably include some other items with it. So right now I'm considering this version 0.1, and I don't like the way I have the installer so far. I've never used Anaconda. I'm still about 9 to 10 days in Fedora, so I'm not an expert in Fedora. And I'm still reading a lot of documentation. So the goal is that I'm going to fix this where in the installer, it will install everything we need, right? And so right now it has more. Right now, I would consider this a bloated version and not an optimized version. One, it is currently downloading and installing just the server version. And then it does a first boot install where it will begin to install all the packages that I use. And so that's going to be very bloated. I'm not giving anyone any options. For example, I use both Chromium and Helium. You don't need both browsers. You may want to use Brave. You may want to use Vivaldi. You may want to use something else. So what I'm doing for the most part is just setting this up to the way I set up my machine. And this is why it's version 0.1. I am not releasing this version. This is me showing that off, kind of what I'm working on and the things to come from it. So version 0.2 is where I will be having this a little bit more as an early alpha. It will allow for the installation to work without doing a first boot install. And then it's also going to allow for a few other things where, it's going to have my dot files included and so forth. Version 0.3, I want to bring in a couple things that I'm working on, some other projects that I don't want to quite announce yet. And so version 3 will kind of give a more cohesive appearance. I'm going to use the term shell very lightly because I'll be using various tools to build a shell. So I'll be using Waybar and Mako and Rofi and the things like that. They're all going to be themed. I will include a theme switcher that I've built on my own. Built it a long time ago, back when I was on another distro, never quite used it, resurrected it for Void, and I've actually used it for Void. I've used it in a few other distros now, so it's not just Fedora. And the goal is that all of these are gonna just give us that ability to really start building more of an experience. So that's kind of what I'm working on here. And so I'm gonna go ahead and let this finish, and then I will show you some of the things that I install as the process begins. Now I did increase the it did increase the font size a little bit. So let's go ahead and log in. And so now we're logged in. And what this does is it detects what kind of GPU you have. And then based on that, it will begin the installer. So if you enter your password, you'll notice that it just kind of begins to do all this installs. Going to do a few things. The first thing it's doing is it's currently installing a couple repos. So it includes the Terra, the RPM Fusion. And then for certain libraries that I use, it installs a couple of the coppers. And then there's a RPM repo that I have for myself as well that I host in my Forjo. That gets enabled because there's a couple packages that I use there. So it's going to do that and then begin to install everything. This does take a while. It takes about 5 minutes right now, depending on your internet speed. Now, I do have a 2 gig connection, so it is pretty fast. So this may or may not be as fast, but let's go ahead and time it. We're at 6 o'clock even. I will let this run. And when this is done, I will then continue going forward with this. All right, this is now done. And let's go ahead and reboot. And so one of the things that this comes with is it comes installed with greetd and TUI greet. And if I can remember all my keys here, here we go. Couldn't remember my default settings. So we are now in Fedora, and if I do a fast fetch, you can see all my stuff here. So this installs Mango. It did take about 9 minutes. Right now, none of it is in the ISO itself. It's currently all being pulled from the web, and so it is about 7 gigs once it gets done installing. And so it's a little bloated, I will admit that. It is only version 0.1. There's no naming of my distro. There's nothing. It just still says Fedora Linux because I don't want to call it a distro. I want to call this more of a flavor. This is a mango flavor of Fedora. That's all that is. A couple things that this will come with. It does have WayBar. I don't have any of my auto start scripts, so you're not going to see that. But it does come with WayBar, and so WayBar is at the top. And it's going to come with a couple other stuff. So right now I don't have any of my dot files here, but that's going to come here in the version 0.2 as I clean up the bloat. More than else, this was just sort of a POC and sort of into the view of what I'm working on. So I will have more on this here later. Let's just do one more fast fetch, not all caps, of course. Let's do a fast fetch, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next one.